All right. Well, thank you, Felicia, so much for being with us today. As an introduction, I just will say I was like reading the bio in APA, and basically, I can say that you do all things related to ACAP.
That's exactly how I say it. That's
All
right.
right, that's excellent. So again, thanks for being here, and we love to hear about APA and AICP.
Sure. So thanks for having us. I also wanted to just introduce my colleagues that have joined the call, Jen Rolla and Renee Cronin, and Yamina might be joining too. Um, they work with us on the certification process. So as we were sort of talking, tell me how many of you are familiar with APA? Let's start there. Just raise your hand. Okay. Okay. All right. So I don't have to go into that. Okay. How many of you are familiar with AICP? Sorta. Okay. Cool. All right. So the free student program part, Yamina, my colleague, I can give you, if she doesn't end up joining us, I can give you her information because we do offer free membership for students. So let's just assume that's going to happen. Okay. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to share my screen and roll through some slides, if that's all right.
Yes,
So,
you should be
okay.
able to.
Okay. So let's see here. Okay. All right. Whoops. Okay. So this is just a jazzy thing that we put together to kick the whole thing off. Basically, right now we have two different what we call paths to AICP. The traditional sequence is the way that people become AICP. It's the long-standing process where people would get their education, earn their planning experience, and then successfully pass the exam and complete professional planning experience, and then they become AICP. The big difference between the traditional sequence and the candidate program is that in order to start the path to certification, you need to have completed your professional planning experience. So for the candidate program, which you all would be eligible for, you need to either be a student or graduate of a planning accreditation board certified program. And what it allows you to do is start the path to certification early. So what you can do is you can enroll in the program even when you're just a student. Once you graduate, you take the exam. So you're able to start becoming AICP before you begin earning your professional planning experience. When you pass the exam, you become what we call an AICP candidate, and you're able to use that sort of designation on your resume and various places. And we have found that it's helped people, get jobs. And so then that then helps you in the next step, which is earning your professional planning experience. Now we know that this is pretty oversimplified, and a lot of people are actually earning professional planning experience as they're going along. So they might not just be starting from scratch here in step 3. But once the member completes the required number of years of experience, um, they enter some information in, that's step 3, and then uh, prepare essays. There's 3 essays, we'll talk about that later. And the essays need to be reviewed, and once they're approved and you pay your dues, you become an AICP member. So that's sort of the program overview. It's 4 steps, and just to summarize again, the difference is you're able to take the exam right after you graduate, before you earn your professional planning experience. Another idea that went into the program was that, the data shows that people are more successful on the exam the closer to graduation that they're more successful at passing the exam. So that's sort of part of what's baked in here. So just an overview of what else is involved in the program, sort of aside from all the steps. The Code of Ethics, the AICP Code of Ethics, is really helpful and a strong feature of the credential. It not only is specific in what you can and cannot do, it's also aspirational and inspirational, and it's very important. And so part of the program when you enroll is you agree to abide by the Code of Ethics. And so it's very important that you become familiar with it, and then that's going to end up help you prepare for the exam, because there's questions about the, ethics on the exam. And then the certification maintenance is our professional development program. And I'll mention that a little bit later. Basically, throughout your participation in the program, you have to earn 16 credits. And then for the optional mentoring, we have a whole list of mentors that are professional planners and willing to provide advice. And so if you're interested, you can contact me and I'll hook you up with our career services manager. So when you're enrolling in the exam, pretty much what you need to do, so because you can enroll either as a student or a graduate, there's different things that are required. If you're enrolling when you're a student, you just have to enter your information in about your school. If you're entering as a graduate, you have to upload documentation. And we say allow 4 weeks to review, but it's actually, less for us to take a look at that stuff. And you can enroll year round, that's available. And this step one, there's a small fee, which is $35. That's another thing that we did with this program, was design it so that the fees are spread out over time, hoping to make it, easier, more accessible. And then also making the biggest fee at the end, theoretically after you've made some money earning your professional planning experience. So, and I just need to mention that right now we're at this very moment, we are entering into a new platform with our application process. And so this step is will be first available to you all January 5th. Okay, so we know that the big question that students have is, when do I get to take the exam? And because you have to graduate in order to take the exam, that's sort of how we set this little chart up to make it as easy to understand as possible. So if you graduate in December, the first exam you could take is in May. And if you graduate in May, the first exam you can take is in November. The fee to take the exam is $100. And we have a bunch of exam prep materials that are on our website that are free. We also have professional development officers. Each chapter, which is the sort of the local version of APA, has somebody on their board that's specifically responsible to help members prepare for the exam and sort of guide the way on the certification process. So they can help with exam prep too. Also, we have, raise your hand if you've ever looked on our website and noticed like the knowledge center that we have. Anybody? Okay, because what we wanted to know there was, it not only is that a good spot to go for exam prep materials, but also just in your classes and stuff as an APA member, there's a bunch of materials that would be really helpful. So like I said before, once you pass the exam, you can start using the designation. So here I'm just going to show, I'm not going to blather on as you read this here, and I can send the you all these slides so you don't have to memorize it or take a picture of this thing. But basically, there's some time built in for reviews. You really need to pay attention to, you know, sort of your end game. You know, which exam are you trying to take, and then when do you need to get, you know, the various information submitted. While we're on this slide, because it is pretty detailed, are there any questions here? Not yet? Okay. All right. So, like I said, you know, you've been earning your professional planning experience, and the third step, once you have earned the number of years that's required, you just enter some information in. That's step 3. It's a separate step from the essays. And if you are thinking of entering your planning experience right before you enter your essays, you need to be really careful that you're entering your planning experience at least 2 weeks before the essay window to allow time for us to review the experience and make sure it matches up, because you want to be ready to roll for step 4. Also, there's no charge for step 3. And another little tip is that internship experience does count towards professional planning experience as long as it's not completed for academic credit or towards your graduation requirements. Okay. So now step 4 is when you prepare and submit 3 essays that reflect on the professional planning experience that you submitted in step 3. And this step here is $335. This is sort of at the end of your journey here. And I want to give you some pro tips. So this is the advice I give everybody about the essays. So number 1 is don't underestimate the essays. They are rigorously reviewed, and you know, some get denied. So if any of your 3 essays get denied, you would need to wait for the next window in order to resubmit them. But here's where the tip comes in. We do have a special opportunity called the expedited review. So for an extra fee, so instead of $335, you'd pay $445. And you submit your application, your essays. And if you're denied on any of your essays, you can resubmit them within the same window. And so that gives you an advantage. You don't have to wait another 6 months to resubmit your essays. So that's pro tip number 2. So don't underestimate the essays, spend time on it. You can have your chapter PDO review it or review your essays. There's nothing wrong with that. And we have a ton of resources on our website, do's, don'ts, tips, videos, all kinds of stuff. So, you know, just please take advantage of that. And then once your essays are approved, you pay your AICP dues and you earn AICP. So there's just a few little extra notes that we'll mention about the program. So this is the web page that we have for the candidate program. At the bottom, there's like a PDF guide that has all kinds of information that's helpful. If you've looked at it before, we recommend that you look at it again because we recently updated it. And that sort of applies to this whole page where we're always updating it, sometimes even with different dates. So please, check back on this web page so you always have the most up-to-date information. Another little thing is a heads up. The links in order to enter some of these steps, so registering for the exam or submitting your experience, little buttons to do those steps will only be visible during the windows where they're active. So if you don't find it, it's on purpose. And then the last little thing I wanted to mention is that international professional experience is accepted. So, so that's sort of the whole spiel. Does anybody have any questions about it?
I have a question about the experience. So let's say we are doing an internship now for credit, and we do enter the candidate program. Can we start entering that information immediately, or do we have to wait till the completion of our internship to enter it?
Well, if you're doing, this is the thing, right? So if you're doing your internship for credit, then it wouldn't count. That's so if you're not doing it for credit, you need to complete it.
Felicia, if I can interject too, if you stick with your internship after the portion of time that's required for your degree or credit, it can count towards meeting experience requirements to make you eligible for AICP. So if only 3 months of your internship was for credit, but you stuck around there after the fact, you can count the time after the credit ended towards meeting the experience requirements.
Thanks, Jen. That's why I asked you to join us here.
And just out of curiosity, how do you validate that? Like how do you submit that and like show that part of it was for credit and part of it was not?
Sure. So members self-verify all of their professional planning experience within the application itself. So you will enter in your employer name, position title, dates of employment. And for the dates of employment, we only want you to enter in the dates that were not for credit. The dates that were for credit don't apply for this particular part. And then you'll enter in your supervisor name, their contact information, and then a description of your professional planning responsibilities in that role. And in that description, we'll ask that you confirm that the internship was not for academic credit, or at least the portion that you're claiming on the application was not for academic credit.
Okay.
Thank you.
I have a question about the experience as well. Is it, would experience prior to starting the graduate program count?
Yes, experience can be earned prior to earning your master's degree.
Okay, and can you remind me how much, is it 2 years?
Yeah, so University of Utah's master program would require you guys to obtain 2 years of full-time experience. So any part-time experience that you guys earn as well will need to be prorated into full-time equivalency. So like a year-long internship at 20 hours a week would be the equivalent of 6 months of full-time experience.
Okay, and that's month to month, I'm assuming?
Right.
It's like a complete, okay. Sorry, one more question. Have you ever had, would like AmeriCorps internships be?
Potentially, it depends on the type of work that you were performing in that role. Just because I know a lot of the work sometimes can be administrative as well. So we want to focus on the professional planning tasks that you are responsible for. So what I would encourage you to do would be to kind of detail out what your responsibilities were and email them to us for us to kind of give you a sense as to whether or not that position would be eligible for your requirements. And I can give you our email address now, and I'm sure Felicia can also provide it to IVIS after the meeting, but you can send any questions you have to aicpexam@planning.org.
I just gave them just the AICP one since it's for the candidate program.
Okay, perfect.
Thank you.
Jen, can you talk a little bit more about what the essay is asking you to do? As I remember, there was like a portion of like, have you done community engagement? So maybe AmeriCorps will have like some responsibilities that are related to that are close enough to planning. But I remember there were also questions about thinking about like long term and like visioning. What are the topics or that will be discussed in these essays?
Sure. The essay prompts are included in the guides that can be found on our website. There are 3 essays, and they're short narratives between 250 and 500 words apiece. And the goal of the essays is to help us determine that you have in fact been practicing professional level planning and aren't doing work that's either pre-professional or that's in an allied profession or that is a little bit more administrative in nature. I can't remember what the prompts are off the top of my head, but
Right
we can.
now, I found it right as you were talking. So we
Oh,
make a good team over here. So
take it away.
go ahead. Okay, so so what the criteria is, one is professional planners demonstrate a professional level of responsibility and resourcefulness while applying a planning process appropriate to the project or situation. The second is professional planners evaluate multiple impacts to a community when implementing professional planning tasks. And then professional planners influence public decision-making in the public interest. So the essays would be, how does your experience apply to these criteria? And you just need to use one example per essay.
And I remember there were like letters of employers confirming that this was the case.
So we had a process improvement and we no longer require that. So we've shifted from that to just the self-verification. Yep.
I had a question about the mentorship program. How do we get involved with that?
I will message you right now. Let me look it up. Bobby Albrecht is our career services manager, and she can get you a mentor even if you are not in the program. We have a huge list of people that are willing to help out. So here we go.
And something that's new that wasn't included in the PowerPoint presentation is we recently, over the last few weeks, have launched a digital badging of our certification, where now AICP candidates and full-fledged AICP members receive a digital credential that you can use in your email signatures, in your LinkedIn profile, and any other social media place where employers or potential employers can verify that you are either in the candidate program or a full-fledged AICP member, just to kind of give you a leg up in the job hunting field as well. So it's something that we just rolled out over the last couple of weeks and has already been a huge hit.
So I'm just going to share my screen here for a second. Thanks, Jen. I wasn't sure if I should go into that or not. This is an example of AICP badges or whatever that we put together. And the candidate one will be similar. It'll have an orange box. This person is the president of AICP. So there's one for each accomplishment and they don't go away. So you would have one, after you pass the exam, you would have one that says AICP candidate. And then what you do is it's linked to our database. So it shows if you're an active member, it'll come up just like this. And so it has a really cool little logo thing, and you can make a link to it and put it on your resume so that people can, so employers can verify that you actually are part of the program and that kind of thing. So you would be accumulating them, right? So you would get a candidate one and then you would get an AICP one as you go through the process.
I had a question about submitting the PAB documentation. I wasn't too sure of what that meant for the pilot.
PAB documentation?
Yeah, there was like in the slides, it says that need to submit like a PAB documentation, but I
I think I know what you're referring to. So in the candidate enrollment application, currently the program is only available to current students and recent graduates of PAB accredited planning programs. We require verification of your graduation within that PAB program, and you can provide that in one of three methods. You can provide us with a copy of your university transcripts that includes your program information and degree conferral date. You can provide us with a copy of your diploma that also includes that same info, or a letter from the university registrar's office that also spells out that information. So either of those three methods of verifying your degree is acceptable, and that's only required after you've graduated, obviously. So if you're still a student and you're enrolling in the program, it's not required upfront, just because obviously you don't have that documentation ready just yet. But when you do graduate, you will need to provide that information to us in order to register to test for the certification exam.
And can you talk a little bit more about the payments? I didn't get that. So it's
Yes.
like when you're a student, it's free for 1 year, right? And then the second year, you pay, is it $35? And then, so if you're enrolled in the program, you will be paying that, I am assuming.
Yes. So the membership dues for students is free. So that part is free. When you enter the program, step one, it's a $35 fee. So just to enroll and get started. Then once you're ready to take the exam, that's when you would pay $100. Step two. Step three, where you're just entering in your experience information, there's no fee for that. And then the essays is the balance. $335 and $445.
So it's like a one-time fee of $35 to enroll the program, right?
Yes.
The pilots.
Yep.
And then when you're saying like $335 is because like before the regular program is like $445. That's what you're saying.
No, sorry, I'm sorry. So to submit your essays at the end, it's $335. But if you want to have that expedited review,
Oh, okay.
feature, there's extra fee because it's extra work, because it's like a premium.
Okay, I get it. Right. Okay, so I think that makes sense. So it's like $35 one time. When you take the exam, it's $100, and then for your essays, if you do it on time, it's $335. So basically, yeah, it's the same. It's just like a little bit divided, right? But it's the same as the regular
Yes.
AICP.
Yes, that's exactly right. It ends up being the same total. It's just divided up over time. And that's another thing I forgot to mention earlier. This program, while the steps are a little bit different, it's the same criteria and requirements as what we call the traditional path.
And can you talk a little bit more about continuing education?
Yes, thank you. So there's 16 credits that are required. And in the survey that we've received, responses that participants have really found it helpful, not just in terms of learning new things, but once we start getting back to in-person meetings and things, it's a really good networking opportunity to sit next to actual like professional planners, learning information. There's a whole bunch of opportunities that are available that carry credit. There's local ones, there's online now especially there's way more online options. APA has some options, but there's some local ones. So right now there are two sort of topics that are so important. There's credits required for it, and that's law and ethics, excuse me. So the candidates would be responsible for earning 1.5 credits out of the 16 in law and 1.5 credits in ethics.
And just so you guys know, 1 credit equals 1 hour worth of an online learning course. So it's 16 hours total. And we have a ton of free CM opportunities available on our website. And I'm sure your local chapter probably has a slew of them as well.
Do we only start accruing those CM credits when we are enrolled in the pilot program, or do we, like, let's say I was enrolled as a student for the last national conference and I attended some of those, do some of those roll over into the candidate program?
I don't think so.
Yeah, you have to be a candidate program participant in order to begin earning your CM requirements.
And actually, the rollover term reminded me that if you earn more than 16 credits while you're in the program, those credits do not roll over when you become AICP. So let me ask you this. If there aren't any more questions, is there anything else we can do to sell you on the value of AICP?
I was gonna ask you about that, but maybe I can say, from my perspective, because I got the certification. So I wanted to stand out from other planners and show that I had that I was committed. I think that's one of the things, being committed to the AICP Code of Ethics in particular. Also, I interacted a lot with consultants, and I think that a lot of them get certifications also to prove that, because it's helpful for contracts and things like that. People see extra certifications, and you might earn more as a AICP, again, because it's having more credentials. And I think that there's some statistics from the APA that do show that. And in a way, after going to planning school, I always say this, it's good to know what a national planner should be learning, because we have the PAB accreditation, right? And they ask for their own things, but sometimes the PAB accreditation doesn't entirely match with the APA. So there's some overlap, but I think that academics can do a better job in terms of more practical learning. So I will always recommend, school is one thing, your experience is one thing, but also learning what AICP is, and what are the things that you should know, are also very important for your education. So that's my own pitch about why I think it's important. I don't know if you guys want to.
That way you nailed it, man. I mean, and it's way more valid and reputable coming from, someone who earns it versus an administration person. So, but I will say that, so there is the salary survey on our website. That's what it's called. And that's where you could find the data on them AICP planners making more. The other thing I was going to mention was that a lot of people end up feeling like they learn so much about professional planning while they're preparing for the exam, and they find that process very valuable in their practice afterwards. So
yeah, I really like this pilot program, because again, this is the time that you should be studying for the exam, because all these are fresh in your mind, and you might have the time now more than later on. So I'm not surprised to learn that people actually do better on the exam when they're first graduating. So I think that this program is a great improvement.
thank you.
I have a question about the value of signing up early, in your first semester versus signing up later. Do you guys find that there is a difference between the people who are a difference in scores or ease of going through the process with signing up for it earlier rather than later in your graduate studies?
No, and actually, no. I'll be straightforward.
So maybe on the second year, that's what you're saying, that might be a good time to enroll.
Yeah. I mean, really, you only have to do it when you graduate. It just gives you more time to earn the 16 credits would be the advantage, I would say, probably. And then there's also a 5-year maximum for participation in the program. When the commission established this program, they really wanted it to be a destination to AICP, and not they didn't want people only doing this to carry the candidate designation. They wanted and to linger there. So if you join earlier, you'd have less time to earn your professional planning experience before the deadline.
Felicia, it's Renee. If I could just add one more thing. And you did cover it, but I really would like to emphasize that the professional development officer at each of the chapters, they really take an interest in your AICP journey, and whether it be discussing your work experience with them or your essays, they should be really one of the first people you contact in your journey, because they really have a wealth of information and can, provide great information for you as you pursue AICP.
All right. Well, if there aren't any other questions, I am going to write a little sticky for myself to have Yamina, our colleague who works directly with the students, to send you information about how to become AICP APA members for free, so you can get the process started.
I have a quick question, because I just jumped on recently, but is there some sort of fee that you would have to pay to take the test to get the certification by chance?
So it's $30 to enter the program, $35 to enter the program. It's $100 to take the exam. And then it's a minimum of $335 to submit your professional planning experience.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you.
Hey, Felicia, it's actually $375 to submit your professional planning.
Oh. Oops.
Sorry, I just want to make sure you guys have
Important.
the accurate.
Let me say the wrong thing before. Okay.
And another reason to always check the website.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's $375 if you're submitting your essays as a regular essay submission. And then if you're looking to submit them expedited, which comes with the benefit of being able to edit and resubmit your essays if they're denied for one reason or another, it's $445. So it's an additional $70 in order to take advantage of the expedited review process, which gives you an extra opportunity to address any issues that may be found in your essays.
But Ronnie, it is the same. It ends up being the same fee as the traditional path. So there's no premium for participating in this program. It's just the payments are spread out over time more to hopefully make it easier for students.
Do you find that employees, let's say if you are, get a job as a planner and they want you to get your certification, do you find that they pay for that for you in order for you to get it?
I'll take a shot. I would say it varies, and Jen can correct me. We do have on our website like a letter or information that you could provide your employer to help them understand how AICP benefits them and their, department and the work that they're doing and whatever. And so we do have that as a resource to help you try to get them to pay for it.
Gotcha. And then is there some sort of book that we could pay for, I guess you could say, through the APA website to help us prepare for it and know all the various components and how to just make it sure that it's spot on?
So APA does not have any exam prep books or anything like that anymore.
Okay.
However, there's a web page that we have, an exam prep web page that has all kinds of free resources that as a member of APA, you're able to access. And then also the professional development officer for your chapter may have free classes or classes for a fee. And then there's also like a chapter exam prep booklet for purchase that's available. My one tip that I would have is to look at the outline of what's going to be covered on the exam and try to figure out which parts you are weak on, not as familiar with, and focus your study time on that. And yeah, do you have any advice on preparing for the exam, Ivis?
Yeah, so there's like tons of resources online, because like I feel like a lot of chapters have put together resources, and there's enough free things that I feel that you shouldn't have to like pay, although there's those alternatives as well. Like Planet Decent has a course that is like pretty good. And there's also books that are sold, like the Cliff Notes, those kinds of things. But I feel that I will start with the free resources, and also just do like practice exams, so, because I feel that there's a lot of reading material, and then there's the exams, and I feel that you have to be able to learn the types of questions that are in the exam. So I will be very complimentary of those things, making sure that you do practice.
Perfect. Awesome.
So I'm going to riff on that a little bit. In terms of the practice exams that are available out there, take the facts that they're quizzing you on and stuff with a grain of salt. They may not be actually accurate, and use them, as like you had said, as practice on test taking itself, not necessarily learning the facts that they're quizzing you on.
Okay. Awesome. All right. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Yeah, that was a great question.
I have a question. If you did the regular path, where you do the exam and the essays at the same time, if your essays weren't accepted, would you also retake the exam, or are the essays then separated in the regular path?
The essays and the exam are two independent requirements to become AICP. So, if you do not pass the exam, you would need to retake the exam. If one or more of your essays are not approved, you would need to resubmit those. I'm not sure if that answers your question, does it?
Yeah, it does. And if your essays aren't accepted, are they just given back as not accepted, or is there like specific feedback for you to actually change?
Megan, great question. It gives me an opportunity to explain that we actually spent a lot of time preparing very detailed and specific information about the exact reason why it's not working. And so that's why that expedited review part is so helpful, because you submit it, let's say something doesn't get approved, it'll explain exactly why. So as long as you're really paying attention to the feedback that we provide you, and you address it, and then you resubmit it, it should get approved. But we really try to give you enough information. I mean, look, that's the bottom line. We want as many qualified people to become AICP as possible. So we're in the business of trying to figure out what kind of resources and information we can give you to, make it through the process.
Great, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we're like approaching here our ending time.
Sorry,
oh yeah, no worries. Yeah, we are going to do like a little exercise or trivia and conversation for half hour just right after this. But I wanted to say, like, I feel that we have gotten the VIP treatment here with like 3 APA staff members. So thank you so much, Felicia, Jen, and Rene, for just like being with us, and also for offering to answer questions that I'm sure that will come up once people are enrolling for the pilot program.
Yes, I mean, every question we got today is not unusual at all. And, we appreciate that you're promoting, the value of APA and AICP. And, by doing so, you're really impacting the profession. So thank you for that.
Again, thank you. So happy holidays.
Yes.
Students will stay here.
Okay. All right. Bye-bye, you all. Thank you.
Bye.
Have a good one.